Let's get on board N Jayakumar from Prime Securities, considering he's also pretty much in the same boat. He tweeted last evening itself saying that the current GST proposal on online gaming can be best summarized as under. And for that under, I'm going to speak to him and get him to speak exactly what his tweet was. Jakes, hi, good morning. Great to have you on the show. I'm just taking a leaf from what Ashneer Grover actually tweeted, saying RIP. He's saying real gaming industry, if the government is thinking people will pay 100 to play on 70 pot entry, it's game over for the gaming industry. What are your thoughts on the same?
Yeah. So I think, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Jakes.
Yeah. So I think it's a pretty straightforward thing that earlier on what used to happen, just to put this in the context of the current practice, was that if two persons, should I say, put in 100 rupees each in order to play a game, on their winnings, the platform would actually pay out 18% as GST, which means that if the platform earned 15% on 200, which was say 30 rupees, and on 30 rupees they'd end up paying 18%, which is 5.4 as GST, which collection broadly took the aggregate collection of the industry to almost 25,000 crores, from what I understand, nearly 2,000 crores a month. Maybe the number is higher. I'm not even sure, because a lot of the games don't get covered in the coverage that we have. But essentially what has changed now is now the GST is sought to be imposed on the entire 200, which is 56 rupees. Now, take it as a parallel to the broking industry, which people understand. The stockbroking industry has GST, has securities transaction tax, etc., built in. And all of these operate at sub 1%. In fact, well below the 1%, including the brokerage. Any industry in the world that can operate at 28%, that's the question that you need to ask yourself. Which industry? And here what's happening is when two people contribute 100 rupees each, literally instantly 56 rupees is taken away from the pool. There is no business in the world that gives the ability to pay out 56 rupees on 200 or 28% on in minute one and yet be productive, or yet be able to operate in any manner, shape or form. So my personal feeling is, and if you add to that the winnings, which includes the income tax on winnings, etc., you end up in an absurd scenario where people stand to make 10 rupees, but almost certainly stand to lose 100 rupees. In addition to all this, if you take the general community punting, as people call it, which is that in the stock market, whether it's day traders or it's gamers, out of 100 people who play any kind of games, about 89% lose money, 9% break even, and 2%, if that, make money. Now, when the win rate is so low, and then you have a 28% imposition of tax on the entire pool, I mean, it's pretty logical that there is no chance in hell that anybody will make money. It will be very difficult to find people playing. Never mind the fact that there may be people addicted, and there are people who are sort of this is like the daily habit, if you will. But there's no chance that anybody can play at 28% brokerage.
Yes, indeed. So, given that you very clearly spelt out the ramifications of this, what does this do to the industry? Because do you think now it's just going to shift everyone to illegal betting platforms in order to, avoid this hefty GST, and thereby that'll lead to a loss of revenue for the government?
No, there's no chance of illegal betting, etc. I mean, first of all, any illegal betting I can't comment on, number one. And number two, illegal betting, etc., is by definition illegal and therefore unlikely to, feature in any conversation that we may have. But I think what will happen is definitely these online games, these money games, will almost certainly have a complete collapse of their revenues, unless, of course, logically, the government changes it. In fact, the expectation was that the 18% on winnings that the platform pays out should actually become 28%, given that there was a fair collection that was happening. And government sought to maximize this by saying that this should not be 18, but should be at the highest end, in line with quote unquote a sin industry, if you will. Now, the fact is, Supreme Court has held that some of these were actually games of skill rather than games of chance. There were nuanced differences that were being set out. And yet, in one fell swoop, all these have been classified as 28% leviable on the entire kitty. My own personal feeling is it's retrograde to the extent that this genuinely, it's only a mythical thing that this 28% is seen as collection, because there will be no collections. That I can absolutely assure you.
Right. You know, that is the whole point, Jakes, because there was that hope that there is going to be a distinction between a game of skill and a game of chance. You think there is a remote possibility that the government may actually go back to the drawing board, as has been the case in the past as well, and maybe make that distinction, and then sort of, that would act as a breather for the industry?
Well, I would say that the government, or the GST Council will do what it takes to protect the GST kitty. That there's no doubt about. When you say go back to the drawing board, whether they make a distinction, I think any game where 28% is charged on the kitty will, by definition, not survive. I think what needs to be done is definitely we need to start by making a distinction between a game of skill and game of chance, which the Supreme Court and the government have both held is a difference that needs to be pointed out. Maybe they start off by making a difference between the two, and game of skill is, you go back to a 18% going to 28% on winnings for the platform. I think so. Just to put things in perspective, from a platform perspective, whatever they make, they pay GST and income tax on. From an individual's perspective, whatever he puts in, he pays tax on his winnings. I think that's the way it's been so far. That's been, to my mind, the correct way. We can argue whether the tax should be 18% or 28%, but that the government or the GST Council has chosen that to be 28. I have nothing to quibble against that. There could be a marginal drop-off if 18 became 28, or marginal hit to the profitability of some of these companies. But that is a matter of debate. That is not to strike at the very root of the problem and say we'll charge 28% on the entire kitty, I think is the issue here.
Appreciate your time. Thanks very much, X, for giving us that clarity as to what the implications of this could be. A huge blow, of course, for the online gaming industry. Tell you what, we'll slip into a very quick break.